Welcome back to my channel. Katie declares she's the new game in town as Steffi smacks down Hope's line. Moment on Bold and the Beautiful, Eric gets some consolation, Hope suffers a reversal, and Bill wishes the disasters would support his woman. Read the last B&B occasion. Eric raged and Brooke brazened Katie after the Logan launch was a mega hit. Katie tears into Brooke in the Logan showroom. Katie asks Brooke if telling her she did a good job is too important to ask. Brooke thinks that's enough audacious question. Katie asks congrats. Her family points out she's eventually had a great success. Could she show her a bit of the respect she's shown her? Brooke says it feels wrong when it's all calm at Eric's expenditure. Stolen designs under a stolen name. Brooke not giving congrats. Katie says everything came together as she hoped it would, but none of that signified to her family. Perhaps she shouldn't need her blessing, but it would mean a lot if she'd give it. Brooke Katie bitter. Sighing, Brooke says congratulations, and also says she said it. Katie flips out and says she didn't mean it at all. She only meant congratulations. You stole my name. Katie wants her to be happy for her for real. She's been soliciting her for support, but indeed her congratulations are laced with affront. Katie got what she wanted. She accuses Brooke of driving her stiletto into her heart. Brooke points out she only had one collection. Now she has nothing. Katie points out she has a company and the trade are through the roof. She's created a fashion house and it's succeeding. Brooke old news. She put herself on the chart moment. It's too bad that Eric is gone, but Logan is then to stay. It would feel better if her family would hail her rather than belittling her. Be advised there's a new game in City. Brooke Logan, you'll always be iconic but your history. The Logan they're talking about now is me. Katie declares. Katie rails at Brooke. Liam and Bill take clunker Forresters in the Logan office. Hope calls Liam to compliment him on his big day and Katie's success. Bill joins him and the ladies off the office. Liam on phone stopgap. He's eager to celebrate with his one and only woman. The ladies run off to find Katie as Bill says it's exhilarating how important plutocrat they're making. He's sure Katie is on top of the world. Bill ladies Liam office. Liam is surprised the press aren't hounding Bill. He says this is each about Katie. He knows it hurt her that the Forrester disasters aren't cheering her on. He reminds his son that Hope is on outside at Forrester too. Liam realizes she's a Spencer too. Bill excited by plutocrat. His pater thanks him for making Katie's company a success. They complain about how, away from Hope, none of the Logans are happy for Katie. Liam realizing stopgap a Spencer. Liam thinks his pater and Katie could be fashion's coming super couple. Bill wants to stay in the background and support his woman. Unlike those zanies in her family. Steffi and Hope fight in the design office. Steffi shows up to ask Hope if Liam has invited her to the prom party celebrating what Katie did to Eric. Steffi stopgap in office. She rails about how Logan is ridiculous. Hope stands up for her aunt. Steffi says she abused Eric's kindness and he regrets it now. It's fitting she named the company Logan since egoism runs in the family. She rails about Bill and how Eric is no bone's hand. Steffi rail at stopgap. Hope points out that's what he was. They did nothing wrong. She doesn't want to start an argument and she's not involved. Hope reminds her she's been staying for the green light on HFTF. They're ready to go. Stopgap asks about line. Steffi announces they need to hold back on that and concentrate on couture. Hope can't believe she's doing this to her again after the pledges she made. This feels deliberate. Steffi insists this isn't particular. Steffi tells stopgap not particular. Eric feels ashamed in the Forrester office. Eric tells his son he needs a real drink. The press are hounding him about his designs being on the Logan runway. Eric crest bandy Logan. He feels shamed. Rich says he's the only bone who should feel shamed because he made his father feel unwanted. Carter and Daphne arrive. They tell Eric that Logan only had a success moment because the designs were his. Wagon Daphne tells Eric going well. They explain that everyone admires his work, and this will be good for his character. Rich tails that up and tells his pater to let Bill and Katie have the day. They will be a one mega hit wonder. On a tense and electric autumn inside the glass-walled services of Forrester Creations, the power dynamics shifted in a way that left no bone untouched as the ever-evolving drama of the bold and the beautiful reached a boiling point with Katie Logan stepping forward to claim her place while Steffi Forrester delivered a crushing blow to Hope Logan's favored fashion line, setting off a ripple effect of emotional fallout, professional treason, and deeply particular reckonings that would change the line of multiple lives. Katie, long undervalued and frequently overshadowed by her sisters, stood with a newfound confidence that surprised indeed those who allowed. They knew her stylish, her voice steady but charged with determination as she addressed the stupefied directors and family members gathered around the conference table, declaring unapologetically that she was no longer happy to play a supporting part in any one additional story. She was, as she bravely put it, the new game in City, and she intended to prove it through action, not just words. Her advertisement came on the heels of weeks of quiet strategizing and observation, during which Katie had watched the ongoing pressures between Hope and Steffi escalate into commodity far more dangerous than bare contest, fating that the chaos presented an occasion for her to sculpt out her own space in a company and family structure that had too frequently relegated her to the sidelines. Meanwhile, Steffi, fiercely defensive of the Forrester heritage and unintentional to tolerate what she viewed as repeated mistakes from Hope, took decisive and controversial action by putting Hope for the future on indefinite hold, a move that transferred shockwaves through the company and burned a disagreement of battle that had been erecting for months. Her logic, delivered with icy countenance, centered on the need to save the brand's integrity and fiscal stability, but beneath her polished surface was a deeper emotional turnabout fueled by times of competition, resentment, and undetermined conflicts with Hope, whose romantic vision and particular snares had decreasingly blurred the lines between business and particular life. Hope, blindsided and devastated, plotted to reuse the abrupt dismantling of the line she had poured her heart into, her unbelief snappily turning into wrathfulness as she indicted Steffi of exploiting a moment of vulnerability to settle old scores, their battle raising into a heated exchange that left everyone in the room holding their breath as allegations flew and long buried grievances resurfaced with astounding intensity. Katie, observing the clash with a keen and calculating eye, chose that exact moment to assert herself further, stepping into the void created by the chaos and presenting her own vision for the future of the company, one that emphasized stability, invention, and a renewed focus on core values, situating herself as a unifying force able of steering Forrester creations through the storm. Her offer was met with an admixture of dubitation and conspiracy, as some questioned whether she truly had the experience and authority to back up her bold claims, while others, including crucial decision-makers, began to see the eventuality in her perspective, especially in discrepancy to the decreasingly unpredictable dynamic between Hope and Steffi. Katie's metamorphosis didn't be overnight. It was the result of times of particular growth, heartache, and hard-earned adaptability, assignments learned through her complicated history with Bill Spencer, her struggles with tone worth, and her determination to review herself on her own terms. And now, she was channelizing all of that into a moment that could either solidify her place in the company or expose her to a position of scrutiny she had no way faced before. As the pressure continued to mount, alliances began to shift in subtle but significant ways, with some members of the Forrester family still aligning themselves with Katie's arising leadership while others remained forcefully in Steffi's camp, induced that her decisive approach, still harsh, was necessary to cover the company's future. Brooke Logan, caught between her daughters and her family, set up herself in an decreasingly insolvable position, torn between defending Hope's passion and fading the validity of some of Steffi's enterprises, all while trying to understand Katie's unforeseen and dramatic assertion of power, which both impressed and unsettled her in equal measure. Brooke's attempts to intervene only stressed the depth of the peak, as each side dug in further, unintentional to concede ground in what had come as much a particular battle as a professional bone. Hope, reeling from the loss of her line, refused to accept defeat, her determination hardening into a quiet resoluteness to fight back and prove that Hope for the future was further than just a brand. It was a reflection of her identity and her values, and she'd not allow it to be cancelled without a fight. Her exchanges with the betters revealed a strategy beginning to take shape, one that could challenge Steffi's authority and potentially force a retrospection of the decision, but it would bear careful navigation of the complex web of connections and commitment that defined the Forrester world. At the same time, Steffi remained unvarying, convinced that she had made the right call despite the counter-reaction, her confidence bolstered by a belief in her instincts and her commitment to conserving what she saw as the true substance of the Forrester brand, Indeed, as she faced growing pressure from those who questioned whether her conduct had crossed a line. Katie's rise added an entirely new subcast to the unfolding drama, as her protestation gestured not just ambition but a amenability to challenge the established order in ways that could either stabilize the company or consolidate the being fractures. Her approach, marked by a mix of empathy and pragmatism, set her piecemeal from both. Hope's emotional investment in Steffi's resoluteness, offering an implicit middle ground that could appeal to those sick of the ongoing conflict, yet her lack of a long-standing power base meant that she'd need to navigate precisely to maintain credibility and avoid being undermined by those who saw her as an opportunist rather than a leader. In the days that followed, the fallout from Steffi's decision and Katie's protestation continued to resonate throughout Forrester Creations, with meetings, private exchanges, and strategic pushes shaping the coming phase of the battle for control and influence. The atmosphere remained charged with query, as no one could prognosticate how the shifting alliances and contending dockets would eventually play out. But one thing was clear: the period of complacency was over, and every player would have to fight for their place in a fleetly changing geography. Katie, standing at the center of this, embraced the challenge with a determination that surprised indeed herself, completely apprehensive that her bold claim as the new game in City would be tested at every turn, yet unintentional to back down now that she had eventually stepped into the limelight she had long been denied. The reverberations of Katie's bold protestation continued to echo through every corridor of Forrester Creations, transubstantiating what had begun as a single shocking moment into a full-scale shift in the balance of power. And as the drama boosted within the bold and the beautiful, it came decreasingly clear that this was no temporary bouleversement but the morning of a deeper, more consequential metamorphosis that would test commitment, expose vulnerabilities, and force each player to defy uncomfortable trueness about themselves and each other. Katie Logan, once the quiet bystander in a family defined by louder, further dominant personalities, set up herself navigating a reality where every word she spoke and every move she made carried weight. Her newfound confidence both empowering and segregating as she realized that stepping into power also meant stepping into scrutiny, and yet she refused to retreat, drawing strength from the knowledge that she had spent far too long allowing others to mandate her place in the world. Now she was determined to define it herself, indeed if it meant colliding with those she loved. Steffi Forrester, unwavering in her decision to halt hope for the future, doubled down on her station in the face of mounting review, her resoluteness fueled not only by her belief in guarding the company but also by a deeply hardwired need to assert control in a situation that had long felt changeable, particularly where Hope Logan was concerned. And as whispers of dissent began to circulate among workers and stakeholders, Steffi took visionary way to support her authority, holding strategic meetings outlining a clear vision for the company's direction, and making it abundantly clear that she'd not be swayed by emotional prayers or domestic pressure. To her, leadership needed delicate choices, and she was prepared to bear the consequences of those choices, indeed if it meant alienating members of her own family. Hope still was far from defeated, her original shock giving way to a quiet but redoubtable determination that manifested in late nights, violent brainstorming sessions, and a renewed commitment to the principles that had inspired her line in the first place. And as she began to gather support from those who still believed in her vision, it came apparent that hope for the future wasn't as fluently extinguished as Steffi had assumed. Rather, it had come a marshalling point, a symbol of adaptability in the face of adversity, and Hope herself surfaced with a sharper edge, no longer willing to postpone or compromise when it came to her work, her identity, or her place within the company, setting the stage for a battle that would be as important about tone description as it was about business strategy. Caught in the crossfire, Brooke Logan plotted to maintain a sense of consanity within a family that sounded to be fracturing under the weight of contending intentions and undetermined pressures. Her attempts to intervene frequently met with resistance from both sides, as Steffi viewed her as prejudiced and Hope saw her as rightly probative, leaving Brooke in a painful position where every trouble to bring peace sounded only to consolidate the peak. And yet she refused to give up, driven by a belief that the family and the company could not survive if the current line continued unbounded. Her exchanges with Katie, in particular, revealed a complex blend of pride and, as she honored her family's growth and strength while also questioning whether Katie completely understood the counter-accusations of the path she had chosen. Katie, for her part, was acutely apprehensive of the dubitation, girding her unforeseen rise, and rather than wince down from it, she leaned into the challenge, using it as provocation to prove that her intentions weren't born of opportunism but of genuine capability and vision. And as she began to outline concrete plans for the company's future, fastening on invention, inclusivity, and strategic expansion, she gradationally began to win over some of the disbelievers, her approach reverberating with those who were sick of the constant dissension and eager for a more stable, forward-looking leadership style. Still, her growing influence also made her a target, particularly for those who felt hovered by the possibility of a new power structure that didn't revolve around the long-standing contest between Hope and Steffi. Behind the scenes, subtle alliances continued to form and dissolve, with crucial players precisely assessing where their interests lay in a geography that was shifting nearly daily. And as pressures coddled just beneath the face, it came decreasingly clear that a moment was approaching, one that would force each character to take a definitive stage, potentially reshaping connections and reconsidering the future of Forrester creations in ways that no bone could completely anticipate. In this of query, indeed small opinions carried significant consequences, and the stakes grew advanced with each passing day. Steffi's confidence, while outwardly smooth, began to show cracks in private moments, as the weight of her decision and the counter-reaction it had generated pressed in on her, forcing her to defy the possibility that her conduct, still well-intentioned, might have unintended impacts that extended beyond the boardroom, affecting her connections and her sense of tone in ways she hadn't completely considered. Yet indeed in these moments of mistrustfulness, she remained married to her course, induced that leadership needed not only strength but the amenability to endure insulation when necessary. Hope, meanwhile, set up unanticipated clarity in the midst of her struggle, her vision for the unborn getting more focused and more compelling as she ameliorated her ideas and strengthened her resoluteness, and as she prepared to make her coming move, there was a sense that she was no longer replying to circumstances but laboriously shaping them, her trip evolving from one of defense to one of assertion, signaling that the battle for her line and her place within the company was far from over. At the center of it all stood Katie, embodying the query and eventuality of this new period, her protestation as the new game in city, no longer just a bold statement but a reality that everyone around her was being forced to reckon with. And as she continued to navigate the interplay of ambition, fidelity, and she understood that the true test of her claim would not come from a single moment of triumph but from her capability to sustain and justify it over time, in the face of challenges that would demand not only confidence but adaptability, rigidity, and an unvarying commitment to the path she had chosen. As the dust refused to settle and the atmosphere at Forrester Creations grew indeed more charged, the consequences of Katie's audacious rise and Steffi's ruthless decision continued to unfold in ways that pushed every character to their limits, heightening the emotional and professional stakes in the bold and the beautiful to a position that felt nearly unsustainable, and yet irresistibly ineluctable. Katie Logan, now completely stepping into the part she had claimed, began to witness the true weight of leadership, not just the authority, but the burden of anticipation, the constant scrutiny, and the consummation that every choice she made would ripple outward, affecting not only the company but the fragile web of connections that defined her life. Still she pressed forward, holding on to the belief that this was her moment to eventually prove, to herself as much as to anyone differently, that she was able of further than being the overlooked family, or the emotional casualty of other people's battles. Her first major test came sooner than anticipated, as a high-stakes meeting with crucial stakeholders turned into a battlefield of contending fancies, with Steffi Forrester presenting a bold restructuring plan designed to solidify the company's fiscal standing in the wake of hope for the future suspense, while Katie combated with a strategy that emphasized reinvention rather than elimination, arguing that the brand's strength lay in its capability to evolve without abandoning the veritably creativity that had made it iconic. The pressure in the room was palpable, every regard, every pause loaded with implied challenges, and as the debate boosted, it came clear that this wasn't just about business. It was about control, identity, and the unborn direction of the Forrester heritage itself. Steffi, unintentional to cede ground, challenged Katie directly, questioning not only the feasibility of her ideas but her readiness to lead at such a critical moment, her words sharp but measured, reflecting an advised attempt to undermine Katie's growing influence without appearing overtly hostile. Yet beneath the face there was a clear communication power wasn't commodity Steffi intended to partake fluently, especially not with someone she still viewed as untested. Katie still refused to be bullied, meeting Steffi's challenge with a countenance that surprised indeed her critics, Her response predicated in sense and vision rather than emotion, motioning a shift in how she approached conflict, no longer reactive but deliberate and strategic. Hope Logan, watching the unfolding power struggle from a position that felt both removed and deeply particular, began to see an occasion hidden within the chaos, fating that Katie's rise and Steffi's strict station had created a fracture that could be abused to her advantage, and as she still worked behind the scenes to rebuild support for her line, she also began to review her own approach, understanding that passion alone would not be enough to reclaim what she had lost. She demanded to be smarter, sharper, and more willing to play the kind of game that Steffi had learned and Katie was now learning. A consummation that marked a significant elaboration in her character and set the stage for a more redoubtable interpretation of Hope to crop.